It has been a little over 4 months since Wave 6 of the Booster Course Pass was released. Now Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has all 96 tracks with no more foreseeable balance patches in the future. Today, we're going to go over the top 10 world records in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. In time trials, there are two modes, 150cc and 200cc, as well as 96 total tracks, which means there are 192 world records. And with the help of Alberto, Panda, Technical, and Pi, four of the best time trialers in the world, holding 73 of the 192 world records, we began reducing that number to 10 by first nominating 23 total world records, which we thought had a chance of being in the top 10. And to reduce this final 23 to 10, we created a scoring system. 100 total points split up between the 5 of us. 20 of those points will go to domination on the track. 35 points going to the difficulty of the track and its strats. And finally, 45 points going to optimization. Whichever of these 23 had the 10 highest scores would of course make the top 10 world records in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Let's get started with the list. And at number 10, we have Piranha Plant Slide. Now this had a total score of 82 out of 100. And I'm going to be showing each of the distribution of the points, and I'm going to also show the current worldwide top 5 on screen as well before we get started with the records. But this one, this is an incredible record because it's one of the more optimized ones. The lap 3 is the best known split, and lap 1 is 9 thousandths off the best known split. And this track is just incredibly crazy to drive. Of course, with Yoshi Bitty Buggy, you're going to be doing a lot of mini turbo strats that would not normally be used in online races. And like this, you see SMT glider motion to get incredible horizontal speed, and Pi just does amazing work on this track. And it's no secret as to why it's top 10, and you can see right there that little Kusan slide, hop over the little ledge. This track is no easy feat, that's for sure. The track has a lot of interesting strats to go around, and Pi just makes it work somehow. And this run isn't perfect, of course. I believe on lap 3 he does bonk a wall, even though it is the best known split. I don't know if that's because the water stream is pushing him or whatnot, but I do remember seeing that. But yeah, the reason why this is 10 and not first is mainly because of the combined difficulty, dominance, and optimized score are not all the best that they could be. Oh yeah, it was the water stream there. Okay, I just remembered one. I thought he for sure just bonked the wall, but anyways, it's just an incredibly impressive world record all around. That SMT motion glider is not easy, by the way, so impressive stuff from Pi. And at number 9, we have Vincent on Vancouver Velocity with a 123.897. At the time, this was 0.8 ahead of second place. I'm not too sure. I haven't checked the worldwide top 5s right now, but I'm pretty sure he has a decent lead over the pack. And King Boo, Tanuki Kart, GLA tires is surely an interesting combo. Somehow it's the best one. This had a total score of 83, so 1 point ahead of Pi's PPS. And yeah, this is mainly impressive for like the wild strats that is done on lap 2. You're gonna see what I'm talking about in a quick second, but first we get this MT trick. And you get this double trick off both these ramps. Super, super low trick off that one. And here you even get a slip drift off of this little ramp to kind of let you take this as tight as possible. And I don't know if that's motion glider. I think it is. You do like a little drift to the left off that ramp too. This whole record is just insane. Like, that's a lot of RNG right there on those stairs. Like, you can go really, really high. And yeah, this part's not easy either. Like, those little inputs, not easy at all. So yeah, this main reason why this isn't first is, again, It's similar to PPS. It doesn't have perfect scores on all three. Its highest in comparison is probably dominance, and its lowest is difficulty. And for number 8 on the list, we have technical on Rainbow Road 7. And he uses Funky Kong, Tanuki Kart, Crimson wheels for this one. You definitely want a high-speed combo with the fact that, you know, there's a lot of long straights that you want to be having that speed to use to your advantage. You also don't get very many coins on this track until later on. And this is very, very difficult. This section right here, section one of the most difficult sections in the entire game, and barely staying on the track there as well. This is just, it's not nearly, again, another track where it's not nearly the best on all three categories. However, in dominance, it's at 19.5, which I'm a bit surprised about. I thought that would be a little bit lower. I think I was the only one that did not give it full dominance points. And difficulty, except for section 1, is not that bad, which is the main reason why it's being held down. But it's pretty optimized. Like, technicals run here very, very, very good. And this could stand for a very, very long time as well. And yeah, I mean, take everything super tight, shroom at the end, bonking straight into that rainbow at the end. Very, very good stuff. And at number 7, we see another Vincent world record, a 157.655 on Bowser's Castle for 150cc. This is where we're starting to get into the higher echelons of points. This had a total score of 84.5, and what's holding it back the most are the difficulty and the optimization. His dominance on this track is like almost unparalleled. He's had world record on this track, I don't know for how long, like in terms of his reign, but it's been for quite a long time, one of the longest in the game. And yeah, this motion glider absolutely flawless, and the rest of the track is just done with such precision. It's just amazing to watch. Like, he takes every corner so incredibly insanely tight, gets media turbos that you normally would never get, and yeah, it's just insane. That motion glider, by the way, not easy at all. One of the main reasons why people are not nearly as fast as Vincent on this track. And you're going to see this one again. Another motion glider, UMT. That UMT is also not very easy to get, so he just gets mini turbos everywhere too, where you just wouldn't expect to get them. And I thought this track, personally, was very, very difficult in terms of the strats, but the committee didn't think too highly of the difficulty on this track, which is why it's number 7 instead of closer to the top 3. But definitely impressive nonetheless. And, you know, if you think this is hard, the top 6 are going to blow your mind. Because from here on out is where it gets insanely, insanely difficult. And there's almost no category that's holding a single track back beyond this point. And with number 6, we have another Vincent world record. N64 Rainbow Road, a 119.274. This had a total score of 85. And the main reason this is being held back is only because of one category, and that is the difficulty. This track isn't super difficult to drive on its own. However, the strats on it are very, very tough to pull off. Like, some of the most difficult in the entire game. You have to take these turns so especially tight, and it's just, you're going to see later on in this run, it's going to look so optimized. And it's not necessarily the track that's difficult, but the strats that go along with it that were, you know, the difficult part of this. You're going to see the MT trick. You get Kusan slide, trick. That is insane. You have to have a perfect pace for that. And look how much of the cart is just off the track there. And that's going to be for basically the rest of the run. half the kart is going to be off the track. You see, he shrooms into there. That UMT is not easy to get. And neither is this one. Just insane stuff. Again, he's going to be basically off the track with this final couple turns. And he gets double SMT, MT, and then motion gliders at the very edge. And pulls off this insane world record. And before we get into the top 5, I want to get some honorable mentions in. The first one being GBA Mario Circuit. Now, this world record has almost stood for it stood for more than 2 years. It's almost stood for 1,000 days. Which just goes to show how dominant Stir has been on this track. And, I mean, this record is impressive, but the only reason why it's not top 10 is because, you know, even though he shows incredible dominance, he has a lot more to optimize on this track with the new meta. And he has a little bit, the track is not insanely difficult. It's one of the easier tracks in the game to drive, but the strats are not super easy. But the reason why no one has improved this for so long is mainly, I think, because of this first NISC right here. It's very, very hard to get this perfectly, where you don't clip any off-road and you don't go too far to go into the second part of that off-road. And I believe Stir himself has said he's gotten multiple paces ahead of lap 3, like 0.1 or more ahead of lap 3. And that's on the new meta too. But yeah, the sub 1 minute, one of the more impressive world records I've ever seen, and it stood for so long. And the second honorable mention is Waluigi Stadium. Now, I'm sure a lot of you might be surprised that this is not in the top 5. And honestly, I don't blame you. The main thing holding this back is the optimization. F has complete and total chokehold on this track. He has an insane second lead and has had this over second, by the way. And he's basically had the world record on this track for so long. And if you're wondering why he's doing this, he's trying to set up for a turn skip, which is where you go like above that rock and you skip the entire turn. And that saves almost 0.5. But he doesn't get it in any of this run. He does not get a single turn skip. And you can go for it on all 3 laps, which is the main reason why this is being so held back. Is just the optimization is just not there at all. Like, he could probably shave a whole second or more if he ever decides to return to this track. Now, if we do an updated list of this in the future, where we come back and see, you know, F has returned to the track and got himself like a 152 mid or something, then yeah, I can see for sure this being in the top 10, 100%. But for now, the optimization is not up to par for the rest of these tracks on the list. And, you know, other than the turn skip, he does everything exceptionally well, except I think for the entry in lap 2, and I think there was a bit of a half-pipe strats on lap 3 that were not so great. But again, one of the most difficult tracks in the game, and F has had such dominance on this track that it was really only one category that kept this from being perfect. And yeah, I mean, this, myself, I've time traveled this, and I almost have one of my tops in this track, and I've got to say, the track is so insanely difficult. I didn't give it a perfect score myself, because I gave it to the most difficult track in the game, which you will see later on. And the final honorable mention, this I think might come to the most surprise of people, but the biggest reason why this is so low, and this has ended up being number 12 on the list. The other two were 14 and 15. And you could probably guess it by now, it's the dominance. No one has any semblance of dominance on this track, and if you saw the top 10 leaderboards before this, literally 10 to 20 people could probably take this world record at any time. So that's the reason why this is not in the top 10. The difficulty, pretty hard. It's one of the most optimized tracks in the entire game because of how many people are, you know, going at it every single day. It's just, it's crazy to think about how many people are competing on this track compared to the rest of the tracks in the entire game. And this just barely missed out on the top 10. Again, mainly for the dominance reason. And yeah, it's incredibly optimized. I don't think this will go lower than a 0.3, to be honest. This is a 0.399. It's going to be hard to get sub 0.3. And now we're going into the big guns. 150cc Wario Stadium by Stir. He scored a total of 86.5. His dominance, 19.5. Difficulty, 28 out of 35. And optimization, 39 out of 45. And he's just had such a long reign on this track. And for one of the most competitive categories as well, that everyone in competitive time trials this track. Every single person. This is one of the tracks that, if you get into competitive Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, everyone tells you to time trial this track. With shrooms, too. And the main goals on this track for, newer players, get a sub 155. And then, once you get more familiar, a sub 154. And then once you start to hit pro, sub 153. And if you're really one of the few select top players, you can get a sub 152. And if you're one of the best players on the world in time trials, you can get a 150 time on this track. And as you can see, he just takes everything super tight. And with such laser precision that it's really hard to just even get pace better than this. However, there are some people recently that have tried to contend with this. I believe Kuzero is one of the few I've seen who have been lowering the time by quite a bit. But Stir just keeps his reign up top. One of the longer reigns in the game as well. But there's a little bit to go for this track. Not too much, but there's a little bit more to go. And it's not terribly difficult in terms of the strats. They're very similar to how you would drive online, which is not, not the same for a lot of the tracks on this list. So it's a little bit easier to drive compared to, the top 4 here. And for number 4 on the list, we have Twisted Mansion 200cc by Grace. The only, I believe, it's got to be the only sub 122 on this track. And Twisted Mansion has some of the most difficult strats in the entire game. You have a motion hop in here. I'm not too sure where it is, but I know there is one. And the Shroomless shortcut at the very end of the track is super RNG. And it's the main reason why it's holding so many people back. But Grace gets it 3 for 3 absolutely perfectly in her run. So this is one of the more difficult tracks to drive as well, since it is on inward, and the tight lines just give it such such a hard time for most time trialers. And Grace herself would probably tell you that this is not a good world record, but I promise you, this is crazy impressive. And yeah, it's just a sight to see all around. I'm not too sure how much this has to go. I would have no idea. I don't play 200cc and I don't play inward, so I could not tell you what exactly they could improve on this track. But there's a little bit to go, I will say. And yeah, it's just an insane world record all around. Very good reason why it's number 4 here. A very strange combo as well. I think it's heavy meat, Yoshi bike, and like wood tires. That's crazy. And at number 3, we have F's Mount Warrior. As you can see, in that first top 10, he had a 7/10 lead over second place. I'm not too sure what it is now, but he has really high scores on all of the categories. 18.5 in dominance, 32.5 in difficulty, and 39 out of 45 in optimization. This track, I believe, is the most difficult out of any in the entire game. Now, of course, the 4 committee members with me disagreed, but the strats that you have to do on this track are just insane. Like, look at this. MT into UMT. That is literally impossible to get. I've never gotten that ever. And you have to get the perfect amount of air, too, to, like, barely get you onto the end of that ramp. And there's just so many insane things you have to do on this track. There's no time on this track where you have to rest, except for the end of lap 3 at the glider, essentially. It's just MTs everywhere. You get this SMT glider too, where you bonk the wall. It's just craziness everywhere. Tree section, in my opinion, one of the most difficult sections in the entire game for any track. And yeah, look at this. It's just so impressive. I made this myself clear number one. But of course, there's 4 other committee members who had their own opinions as to what, you know, the number one was for them. And I think they have good reason to. They are a lot better at me in terms of time trials in this game. And I think you're going to see exactly why this isn't number one in a couple of seconds. I mean, just insanely impressive. 140.545. And at number 2, we have Army's 200cc Ribbon Road 117.097. Now, the only real thing holding this back is, well, the difficulty. It's pretty well optimized, and you're going to see this track is incredibly difficult to drive, and it's just wild everywhere. Like, so many tight spaces that you have to maneuver around. Like, look at that shortcut. Absolute craziness. And look at that shortcut. You can't not go any wider than that, or you will just hit off-road. It's so insane. Yeah, it's just... Army himself has said he's gotten some 116 paces, but not much more than that. And look at this. Like, holy shit. That is such a crazy improvisation to do for that pace lock. And yeah, it's just so wild that this is so refined, despite how crazy difficult this track is. Like, you could easily hit the top of that little, I don't know, what do you call that, like, header or something? The castle header? I don't know, but either way, impressive stuff from Army, and it's very easy to tell why this is number 2. And at number 1, again, we have Army with a 125.763 and 200cc on Shy Guy Falls. Now, this has a total score of 92.5, which is absolutely incredible. I was one of the few people who docked points from this, which means everyone else thought that this world record was incredible all around. A few things that make this number 1. You know, one of the most easiest to see, the dominance. Army has such a huge lead over second. Like, it's so easy to see. And the other is the optimization. That shrimp cut right there, one of the most difficult in the entire game. And he just takes every turn so tight and perfectly. And there's also one last thing. The optimization is so incredibly good on this track because of the fact that there's a pace lock because of the boost panels. And Army goes so fast that he's the only person that has to worry about the pace lock. So that's why this record is number 1 on the list. It's just... it's incredible how he just navigates this track so easily and gets every single strat down basically perfectly. And he's only missing 7.5 points from a perfect 100 out of 100 score. And how much did I dock from this? I think I was 3 of them. I might have been, or no, I was 2.5 of them, I believe. Let me just double check. No, I was the one who took off 3 of those points, of those 7.5 points. So, yeah, absolutely crazy stuff. So thank you all for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It'll help me out a lot. And thank you so much to the 4 committee members, Alberto, Pi, Technical, and Panda, once again, for helping me out with this video. It would have not been possible. I would have made an absolute dog shit list without them. This was easily one of the most, fun videos to make out of all of them, and they just made it so easy. Yeah, just wanted to thank them for helping me out with this. And yeah, I'm gonna leave probably their Twitters, or I might leave a YouTube channel or 2 in the description if you want to go follow them. And give a subscribe to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe World Records, where you will be up to date with all the world records that end up getting posted. So, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.